Hello there and welcome to Project Business Basics, designed to give you the tools to make smarter financial decisions. Whether you're looking to learn something brand new or just want a refresher on some basic economics, there is a place for everyone on our show. I'm Archit Janarkar and I'm your host. Today we're going to be talking about doubling time. Doubling time is answering the simple question of how long will it take the value of an investment or any such matter to double. For our purposes, we mean it to refer to an investment's value, but it can be used for almost any other metric that grows at a percentage. So this is a mathematical-based concept that provides an estimation of how long it will take something to double. And you might hear this concept referred to in several different ways. But in most situations, you'll first hear someone say the rule of blank. And what goes in the blank is usually one of these three numbers: 69.3, 70, or 72. Now 69.3 is the most accurate number when it comes to approximating doubling time. This entire concept of doubling time is derived from the calculation of the natural logarithm of 2, ln2, which is about 0.693. So whenever that's converted to a percentage, you get 69.3, and therefore 69.3 is the most accurate out of these three numbers. But 69.3, it's an unfriendly number, it doesn't divide by much, so sometimes people will just go to 70 from there. They'll call that the rule of 70. And the rule of 70 is often used in most macroeconomics or in population studies or just generally throughout statistics. The rule of 70 tends to be used most commonly in various fields. Now, the investing and financial world, though, likes to use the rule of 72. And the reason for that is because 72 has many more factors, or it can be divided by many more numbers than 70 can. So I said that the rule of 70 applies to a lot of fields. Well, it doesn't apply to the investing and financial worlds as often. The finance world likes to use the rule of 72 simply because it's easier to explain, it has more divisors, and therefore it's easier to gain an approximation. With all three of these numbers, though, you have to remember that you're getting an estimate. Now, you might be wondering what the point is behind this entire rule when we have calculators. Well, yes, that's certainly true. We could definitely use calculators, but this is just a general rule of thumb. If you hear someone saying they got X% return, then instead of having to go to a calculator and plugging this into a formula, then you can just, in your head, use one of these three rules and figure out what the approximate doubling time is. So with that, since we cover financial concepts, for our example's sake, we're going to use the rule of 72, and we'll show you how it's used. It's very simple. So the only thing you need in order to use any of these rules is a growth or decay rate. And let's say, for our purposes, that our growth rate, or our annual rate of return, is 3%. So in order to find the approximate doubling time of an investment whose value is growing at 3% each year, then I just have to divide 72 by my annual rate of return of 3%. And I don't have to take that 3% and make it 0.03. I just leave it as is, because if you remember, the natural log of 2 is 0.693. We already converted that to a percentage form when we made it 69.3. And that was then rounded up to 72 for our sake. So we just do 72 divided by 3 then, and we get a doubling time of 24 years. Now if we had an annual rate of return of 4%, then you do 72 divided by 4, which gets you 18 years. And this annual rate of return can be found through the compound interest idea that we had talked about earlier, and with that we learned how to calculate how an investment or a stock performed when looked at over the course of several years. Now if you had an 8% annual return, you just then do 72 divided by 8, and that investment will take approximately 9 years to double. Now, I'm saying annual and years, but if my investment grew 8% monthly, then I would just say my approximate doubling time was 9 months. So the unit used is just based on whatever time period you're looking at your rate of return on. So similarly, 12% annual rate of return, 72 divided by 12, gets me 6 years approximately. And even for numbers that don't go into 72 evenly, you can just get an approximation. So if I had an annual rate of return of 20%, I could do 72 divided by 20. Now that's 3.6 years. But I know that 60 divided by 20 is 3. So I could just guesstimate that it's a little more than 3.5 years, and I'd be pretty close. So let's recap. We talked about the concept of doubling time, which measures how long it takes an investment to double. Now this concept is derived from the natural log of 2, which is 0.693. So with that then, there are several variations with the rule. There are different numbers then that are used. There is 69.3, 70, or 72. 69.3 is the most accurate, 70 is used by statisticians, and 72 tends to be used by the investing and financial world. And remember, all of these rules give you a rough estimate or an approximation. They're never exact, but they're a good rule of thumb that you can use. So in order to use this rule for any of these three numbers, just take your base number, so for our example we use 72, and just divide it by the rate of return, which is expressed as a percentage. And that should get you the approximate doubling time of whatever you're looking at. I hope you enjoyed that episode and learned something from it. If you're looking for recommendations for good investing and business books, I encourage you to check out the Project Business Basics blog and also sign up for the Project Business Basics newsletter. You can do all this through the Project Business Basics website, which is www.businessbasics.online. Also, make sure to check out our social media. We're on Instagram and Twitter with the username at PROJBIZ Basics. I'm Archie Janarkar. This is Project Business Basics. Thanks for listening.